SonicLAB TV.
So here it is, Korg Monotribe, the Analogue ribbon station. I finally got it here. Thanks to all of those who viewed the unboxing video. Seems to be quite a popular item. We will endeavour to answer any of the questions that you left in the comments, and thanks once again for your input. Here it is. I've taken it out of the box because we've already done that bit, I guess. It's got a metal case, much sort of very sturdy feel, nice knob caps, a bit like the Micro Korg XL, that kind of thing. These nice switches here make it feel a little bit more sturdy than the original Monotron. Still got the ribbon keyboard of the Monotron, which is a shame I haven't made that a bit bigger because I personally find it almost impossible to play with, even with my small fingers. What they've done is basically they've expanded the synth voice, added an 8-step sequencer with 4 channels. We've got a channel for the synth voice, a channel for the bass drum, snare drum and hi-hat. These drum voices are kind of rudimentary analog style. You can't change them. More on that later. Let's take a look at the actual synth engine. So the VCO has a very wide range from 64 foot up to 2 feet, which is switchable. It's also got 3 waveforms now, square, triangle and sawtooth. There is in fact also a noise source which you can dial in. There's a range switch for the keyboard, so you can have it just fixed to the keys, or narrow or extra wide. VCF and resonance are the same as the Monotron, but on nice big knobs. It's exactly the same kind of MS-20 style. There's a VCA level for the overall gain of the synth part. Preset envelopes, a kind of release, gate and attack mode. Then we've got the LFO with rate and intensity. The rate can be switched between fast, slow and one shot. One shot is kind of like an envelope, it triggers every time you press a key. You can affect the VCF, VCO or both together with those selection switches. There are also 3 waveforms, again square, triangle and sawtooth. Right, so let's take a look at the ins and outs. We've got sync in and out here, which are on mini jacks. This is for syncing to external equipment, such as other Monotribes, drum machines, that kind of thing. More on that later. Headphone output on mini jack. 1/4-inch mono signal output. Mini jack audio input for processing external signals. 9-volt DC power supply in, which is not included, rather unfortunately. You don't get the power supply, but you do get 6 AA batteries, so you can power the unit up as soon as you get it out of the box. So how does it sound? Well, it's got a reasonable amount of bottom end. Gets pretty screamy when you get the filter go that way. I was asked whether or not there was some hiss or whether it was as noisy as the Monotron, and the answer is no, not as noisy as the Monotron, but there is definitely some hiss there. So let's take a listen to the drum sounds, because they're obviously a big part of it too. Drum sounds are triggered, or there are bass drum, snare drum and hi-hat. I've got it set up here so that I can play them from these buttons. You can switch that off if you want, so that's a nice bit of configuration. So kick, snare, hat, sort of analog style KPR, fairly rudimentary. Let's just play a little pattern here. The levels are fixed between them. You can't modify the drum sounds in any way. That's pretty much it. Though I am told if you open up the lid, there are patch points to allow you to change the relative levels of the individual drum sounds and the decay of the bass drum and the hi-hat, and also a bit of snap on the snare. So if you feel like getting your hands dirty, voiding your warranty, then it's there if you need it. So I've got a very basic 1-bar pattern here. Quite dull, if I may say so, but what I can do to spice it up, I can press and hold a drum voice, and that gives me an additional 8 steps, so I get 16-step resolution on the drum voices, which is actually really cool. So if I'm clever, what I could do is actually create a 2-bar pattern. Slow it down a bit, add a bit of variation. And there I've got a 2-bar pattern. Right, so I'm going to slow my pattern down so I've got a chance of playing it. I'm going to add a sort of dubby style bass line. 2, 3, 4. Right, you see what's happened? It's quantized it to the 8 steps, which if I was running at higher tempo might be a bit more groovy. But I can fix that by pressing the flux button, which decouples it from the quantize engine and sort of plays it back as I played it, mistakes and all. So I've got another pattern here, and as well as obviously turning off individual steps of that pattern and playing something over the top, I can also do something with active steps. So I can change the number of steps in the overall pattern to 1, 2, 3, 4, any combination of 4. So I can still have 4, but they can be in different orders. So you could do some pretty creative stuff. This works across the entire pattern. It's not for individual voices, so unfortunately you can't run sort of complicated cross time signature things. One other thing that you can do, gate time. So I can record and vary the gate time of the recorded synth notes as well, and I can record that as a separate overdub to the sequence data. So a fairly basic sequencer there, enhanced by a few little extra features. Incidentally, you can also store one sequence, yes, one memory folks. Press and hold the record button, the active sequence will be stored in memory, which will come back when you power the machine on and off again. I'll be getting a lot of other questions about the external interfacing capabilities. Let's take a look at that now. So I've got a pattern here. I brought out the trusty MS-20, nice to keep it in the family. I've taken the sync output of here and plugged it into the clock source of a sample and hold patch. Now the clock here then will affect the tempo, so I'll just bring this into the mix. I'm running this through the board, not through the actual Monotribe at the moment. So now I can change the tempo, and that will work there. I'm using the old trick of sellotaping down a key on the MS-20 to keep a note playing. What I got here is the sync in coming from the trigger on my keyboard. So now I can just go manually trigger step by step and control the Monotribe. Okay, just one more thing to show you. I've got a drum loop here, which I will play, which is running inside my DAW, and then below it here I've got a track for click. Now I did try and output just the metronome into the Monotribe sync input, but it didn't seem to work. So what I did is I recorded the pulse and then cut it up and put it on the timeline, so it's now playing back to the Monotribe. So if I just go into ready mode, switch the thing on and press go, I should have, in fact I have got, the Monotribe playing along with a drum loop from the DAW. Rudimentary sync, it hasn't got any kind of song position pointer or anything, you're not going to get any of that, but it will sync and it does seem quite tight. So analog interfacing with the Monotribe, certainly on the sync, is no problem at all. In fact, it's got a couple of options. When you power up the unit, hold a couple of buttons down, you get access to individual features. Things like changing the polarity on the sync in and out, which is quite useful. I used that for the Korg so that the step was working on the key down rather than key up. One last thing to show you, and that's external audio processing, because it's a bit different to the Monotron. I've got my MS-20 coming in again. Now what's happening here is every time there's a note sent by the sequencer or via the keyboard, the external audio in sounds. This is actually quite a big deal because on the Monotron, the filter was always active, so you could just plug something into it and actually just kind of wiggle away without having to listen to the synth. Whereas on the Monotribe, you have to be playing the synthesizer voice, and you can't turn the synthesizer voice down, so anything that's coming in via the external input has to be playing at exactly the same time as the synth voice. Now this could be a bit of a problem for some people because it does actually limit the flexibility for external processing quite considerably. So, to sum up, it's actually quite an innovative product. True, it's not the fully blown analog monster synth that some of you will want, but it's not bad. It's nearly a 303, although it doesn't have the glide, which I know that a lot of you are asking about. There's no portamento. But the filters can really scream, and the waveforms, particularly the square, has plenty of bottom end, and you can get some really sort of down low there. It's just a shame we have to use this ribbon keyboard to input the notes. It just seems to have made it sort of willfully difficult to use. In my dream world, we'd have CV in and out, and I could interface it with analog gear and have some real hands-on fun with it. But perhaps some bright spark will open it up and find out whether or not it is possible to do that via the circuit board. I think it all comes down to price, basically. This is priced at £199 UK, that's full retail. It's going to be cheaper on the street. In my opinion, if it was just a bit cheaper, it would make it more of a must-have unit. But having said that, I know a lot of you are waiting for this to come to the shops and to go out and buy it straight away.